Do you believe in coincidences, or do you believe in a darker reality, lurking beneath the cold, quiet waters of America's rivers across 11 states over the span of 2 decades? 40 young men, intelligent, athletic, full of promise, vanished after nights of celebration, only to be found weeks later floating in nearby waterways. No signs of struggle, no suspects, just their bodies, and in some cases a haunting graffiti symbol spray-painted near the discovery site's a smiley face. If you want to dive deeper into this chilling mystery and stay updated on the latest developments in this case and other true crime stories that shake America to its core, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell. You won't want to miss what comes next. The question that has haunted investigators, families, and the American public for over 2 decades remains unanswered. Are these deaths the result of tragic accidents involving intoxicated young men? Or are we facing one of the most overlooked serial killer networks in United States history? Patrick McNeil was 21 years old in the winter of 1997. A junior at Fordham University in New York City, he was majoring in accounting with aspirations of joining the Federal Bureau of Investigation after graduation. Friends described him as bright, ambitious, and well-liked. He had a promising future ahead of him. On the evening of February the 16th, 1997, Patrick decided to spend time with friends at the Dapper Dog, a bar in Manhattan. It was a typical Sunday night for a college student, laughter music, and the company of peers. However, as the night progressed, Patrick began to feel unwell. According to witnesses who were with him that evening, he became nauseous and vomited in the bar's restroom. Concerned about his condition, but wanting to return home, Patrick made the decision to leave the Dapper Dog alone and take the subway back to his residence. His friends last saw him around 11:30 that night, departing from the establishment on his own. What happened next would become one of the most disturbing unsolved mysteries in New York City. A witness reported seeing Patrick walking unsteadily along 2nd Avenue in Manhattan. The witness's account included a detail that would later prove significant. A car was driving slowly parallel to Patrick, appearing to follow him as he moved along the sidewalk. Every time Patrick turned, the vehicle turned with him. The witness stated that the car continued to trail Patrick as he walked toward East 90th Street, heading in the direction of the East River. That was the last confirmed sighting of Patrick McNeil alive. 50 days later, on April 7, 1997, Patrick's body was discovered floating in the East River near Brooklyn, approximately 12 miles from where he was last seen. The condition and position of the body immediately raised questions among those who examined it. Patrick's body was found floating face up, a position that forensic experts note is uncommon in typical drowning cases, where bodies usually sink initially and later surface face down due to decomposition gases. Additionally, Patrick was wearing only his jeans and socks. His shirt, shoes, and jacket were missing. The initial investigation by the New York Police Department classified Patrick's death as an accidental drowning, likely related to alcohol consumption. However, this conclusion would soon be challenged by forensic evidence that told a very different story. Cyril Vecht, a renowned forensic pathologist, conducted an independent examination of the evidence in Patrick's case. His findings were startling. Dr. Vecht discovered the presence of fly larvae in the groin area of Patrick's body. Critically, these were not the type of flies typically found in outdoor environments or near bodies of water. Instead, they were species of flies that live and breed indoors within human structures. This biological evidence strongly suggested that Patrick had died inside a building and had been there long enough for indoor flies to lay eggs on his body before he was placed in the water. Furthermore, Dr. Vecht's examination revealed additional disturbing evidence. There were indications that Patrick had been restrained before his death, with marks consistent with binding on his wrists and ankles. There were also signs of thermal injuries, burns on his body that could not be explained by accidental causes or by exposure to water. These findings painted a picture that contradicted the accidental drowning narrative entirely. Detective Kevin Gannon, a retired New York City police detective who would later dedicate years to investigating similar cases, reviewed the evidence in Patrick McNeil's death. Based on the forensic findings, Gannon concluded that Patrick had been abducted, held captive for an extended period during which he was subjected to torture and then murdered before his body was disposed of in the East River. Despite these findings, the official conclusion from the New York Police Department remained unchanged: accidental drowning cause undetermined. Patrick McNeil's case might have remained an isolated tragedy filed away as an unfortunate accident, if not for the work of two retired detectives who began to notice a pattern. Kevin Gannon, along with his colleague Anthony Duarte, started connecting similar cases across the United States. What they discovered was deeply disturbing. The victims shared striking similarities. They were almost exclusively young men, typically in their early 20s. Many were college students or recent graduates. A significant number were athletes or academically gifted individuals. They disappeared after leaving bars or parties, often after consuming alcohol. Their bodies were later found in nearby rivers, lakes, or other bodies of water, sometimes weeks or months after they vanished. In many cases, authorities ruled the deaths as accidental drownings related to intoxication. But there was another commonality that Gannon and Duarte found chilling. In numerous cases, a spray-painted smiley face was discovered near the location where the body was found, or near the location where the victim was last seen. The smiley faces varied in style and size, but their presence near so many of these deaths seemed to be more than mere coincidence. Lucas Homan disappeared in Eau Claire, Wisconsin in 2006. The college student's body was found in a river months later, and investigators discovered a smiley face graffiti near the recovery site. Todd Gieb vanished in 2005 after leaving a party in Caledonia, Michigan. His body was found 3 weeks later in a lake, floating in a vertical position, an extremely unusual posture for a drowning victim. The level of decomposition was inconsistent with the 3-week timeline, suggesting the body had not been in the water for the entire period. A smiley face was found painted nearby. In 2008, Tommy Booth disappeared in Philadelphia after a night out with friends. His body was recovered from the Delaware River 2 weeks later, and medical examiners noted that the body was still a state of rigor mortis, a condition that typically lasts only 24 to 72 hours after death. This indicated that Booth had died recently, not 2 weeks prior, raising the question of where his body had been during the intervening time. William Hurley vanished from a bar in Boston in 2009. When his body was recovered from the water toxicology reports, revealed the presence of GHB, commonly known as a date rape drug, in his system. There were also injuries consistent with blunt force trauma. As Gannon and Duarte compiled their research, they identified approximately 40 deaths across 11 states that fit this pattern. They presented their findings to the Federal Bureau of Investigation in 2008, proposing that these cases were connected and were the work of an organized group of killers rather than isolated accidents. The FBI reviewed the evidence and issued a public statement rejecting the theory. According to the Bureau's analysis, the deaths were unrelated incidents, most likely accidental drownings involving intoxicated young men making poor decisions. As for the smiley face graffiti, the FBI noted that such symbols are common in urban environments, and their presence near some of the bodies was purely coincidental. The Bureau found no credible evidence of a serial killer or an organized criminal network. However, not everyone accepted this conclusion. Professor Lee Gilbertson, who studied the geographic and temporal distribution of the cases, argued that the scale and scope of the deaths suggested coordination. The cases spanned multiple states over many years, with victims who had no connection to one another. Yet the circumstances were remarkably similar. Gilbertson and others theorized that if the deaths were indeed homicides, they were the work of multiple perpetrators working together, a syndicate, rather than a single serial killer. This theory gained additional traction when investigators began examining digital evidence in some of the more recent cases. In the case of Dakota James, a 23-year-old who disappeared in Pittsburgh in 2017, His family reported unusual activity on his financial accounts after his disappearance. Specifically, there were PayPal transactions made after Dakota had already vanished, suggesting someone else had access to his accounts and devices. Further investigation into the digital realm revealed something even more disturbing. Researchers claimed to have discovered references on the dark web to a portal that required webcam verification for access. The nature of this portal and its potential connection to the cases remains unconfirmed, but the theory suggests that perpetrators may have been using encrypted online platforms to coordinate activities, select targets, and communicate. The proposed methodology for these alleged crimes involves several calculated steps. Targets would be identified and tracked through social media platforms, where their locations, habits, and social activities could be monitored. Perpetrators would allegedly approach intoxicated victims, leaving bars or parties, possibly using drugs to incapacitate them further. The victims would then be held for a period of time before being killed and their bodies disposed of in water. The use of water as a disposal method serves a dual purpose. It destroys forensic evidence through decomposition and water contamination, and it allows authorities to easily classify the death as an accidental drowning. Families of the victims have been vocal in their rejection of the accidental drowning conclusions. Pam James, the mother of Dakota James, pointed to specific evidence that she believes was overlooked or dismissed by investigators. Dakota's body showed signs of strangulation and thermal burns. The family argues that these injuries are inconsistent with an accidental drowning and indicate foul play. Similar concerns have been raised by families in other cases who point to unexplained injuries, unusual body positioning, and delayed responses by law enforcement as evidence that their loved ones' deaths deserve further investigation. The debate continues to this day. Advances in technology have provided new tools that could potentially shed light on these cold cases. Geofencing technology, which can track mobile device locations within specific geographic areas during specific time periods, could help fill in the gaps in the timelines of these disappearances. Cell phone data, social media activity logs, and surveillance footage that may have been unavailable or not thoroughly examined during initial investigations could now be reviewed with more sophisticated analytical methods. Yet, despite these technological capabilities, most of the cases remain officially classified as accidental drownings. No arrests have been made, no criminal organization has been identified or charged. The smiley face symbol continues to appear in graffiti across American cities, as it always has, though now it carries a more sinister connotation for those familiar with these cases. The question of whether the smiley face killer theory represents a real criminal conspiracy or a case of pattern recognition bias, seeing connections where none exist, remains unresolved. What is indisputable is that dozens of young men with their entire lives ahead of them died under circumstances that their families find deeply suspicious, and that the current answers provided by official investigations are insufficient for those seeking closure and justice. When truth remains submerged beneath the surface, like bodies in dark water, the painted smile on a city wall takes on a different meaning. It becomes not just graffiti, but a question mark, a challenge, a reminder that some mysteries resist easy answers, and some losses leave wounds that never quite heal. In a society built on the rule of law and the pursuit of truth, every unexplained death deserves thorough investigation. Every family deserves answers, and every life lost deserves to be remembered as more than a statistic. What do you think? Are these the tragic results of alcohol-related accidents, or is there a more sinister explanation lurking beneath the surface? Share your thoughts in the comments based on the facts presented, and make sure to subscribe to our channel to follow this case and other real, chilling true crime stories that continue to haunt America. Your engagement helps bring attention to cases that need answers, and together we can keep the conversation going until truth prevails.